Christian Nørgaard. Now, this was a name that nobody thought Arsenal would be linked to, but here we are. Although at this moment in time he hasn't officially signed for Arsenal, a lot of people are predicting that he will be one of the first names through the door. Yes, there's been a lot of talks about Zubamendi and Kepa and this and that, but Nørgaard seems to be the guy that's going to come in and probably be the guy to replace Thomas Partey. Now, a lot of people are pretending to be experts and say that he's the best thing since sliced bread and how he will benefit Arsenal and why this is a really great thing. And there are other people that say that this is probably the worst thing that's ever happened and why Arsenal are even linked to a player like this. And you know what? I understand both sides. I understand why there are concerns. I understand why people may be a bit positive about it. Because let's be honest, this transfer window thus far has been pretty poor. Barely anyone's come through the door. A lot of Arsenal fans are starving in terms of wanting new players to come into the club and essentially just have new fresh blood essentially. So with Christian Nørgaard, who is he? How does he fit Arsenal, and will he be a good player for Arsenal overall? Now look, he's a guy that's come from Denmark, he's been at Hamburg, he's been at Fiorentina, and most notably he's been at Brentford since 2019. So he's been there for about 5-6 years. He's worked under Thomas Frank and he has been quite well for them essentially, especially with this season. He is a CDM and he will be another CDM that Arsenal decide to get in the other list of other CDMs that Mikel Arteta and this regime has decided to get, especially with the likes of Declan Rice or Jorginho. Now, with Thomas Partey pretty much leaving the club, with him and Arsenal not being able to sort out contracts, is it fair to say that Nørgaard will replace Thomas Partey or be more of a backup to Jorginho, in the sense that now that Jorginho has left the club and gone back to Brazil, will he be more of the bench option? Now look, he is a number 6. He's a defensive minded player. He's more of an anchor. He is a guy that's going to be in front of the defenders. That is going to be his role. He's probably not going to start. He's the type of guy that's a destroyer. He's an anchor. He was captain for Brentford. At this moment in time, he still is the captain. So he'll bring some sort of defensive leadership into Arsenal. And one of the main things that's really good about Nørgaard is the fact that he is another player that will fit Mikel Arteta's system of getting headers, being good at aerial duels, and being good at set pieces. Literally all the things that is part of the Stoke City Arsenal team that it is right now. Now, and some of the other good things about him is that he's good positionally from the defensive side. He's reliable when it comes to transitions in defense. When it comes to being under pressure, he can be good at moments in time, but when it comes to being pressed, he can find things a little bit difficult. And one of the things that is a bit of a limitation with Christian Nørgaard is the fact that he's not as good as Jorginho or as good as Partey in getting the ball forward, making those killer passes, those long balls to each side. That's not something that's part of his game. He's more of the CDM, the extra defender, just making sure he can be in front of the defense and literally break up play and be a destroyer in that sense. He's not really a number 8, he's mainly a number 6, and this is the funny thing about Arteta and what he wants to do and how he wants to have players that play multiple positions. I don't think Nørgaard's going to be that sort of guy, but you know what? That might be a good thing, because at the end of the day, you want players that are there for certain positions and you need to build up your squad. And for £10 million or 10 million euros, whatever it is, that's not bad, especially for someone that is 31 years old and that has 2 years left in his contract and who is someone who is Premier League proven. Now, let's be honest, is this guy going to replace Thomas Partey? Now look, he has some pros. He's quite reliable defensively. I've already said that. He's less injury prone because he's played 181 games over the last 5 to 6 seasons at Brentford, so that's not bad. He's tactically intelligent, but he's not the most agile. Clearly his age is a drawback because he's 31 years old, so clearly this is a stopgap player, and he's more defensive minded than being balanced in the sense of having being good defensively and being good offensively. So offensively, he's not going to be as good. But you know what? In terms of just being there as a squad depth player, why not? for £10 million, why not bring in Christian Nørgaard? Now look, I get it. People are going to be upset. People are going to be losing their minds, as this is going to be the first guy that comes through the door. But you know what? Arsenal need to improve their depth. Mikel Arteta has said that Arsenal have one of the thinnest squads in the league. Not every player has to go for 50 to 100 million. Sometimes you just need these cheap options, and that's been something that I've been talking about for a very long time. Finding good players that can come in, do a role, and essentially help out the team when needs to be, whether it's in the Carabao Cup games, the FA Cup games. If there's an injury, to come in, do a job. We need these sort of players. And if we were to talk about Nørgaard versus Jorginho or Partey, in terms of tackles per 90, he's higher compared to the other two. Interceptions, he's higher than Jorginho and Partey. In terms of ball recovery, he's better than Jorginho and Partey. And in terms of aerial duels, he's better than Jorginho and Partey as well. The only problem is that his pass accuracy, especially as a CDM, is lower. He's at 86%. So that can be a bit of an issue, because as a CDM, that tends to be the safest place to pass the ball. And in terms of progressive passing, he is a lot worse compared to Jorginho and Partey, which pretty much supports everything that I'm saying. And he's more susceptible to get fouls, maybe get more yellow cards and red cards, especially in Arsenal. We all know how Arsenal can get a lot of yellows and a lot of reds. So that's something we've got to be careful about, especially with Nørgaard. But the good thing is that he's a durable player. He can play a lot of games. He won't get injured as much, hopefully. And he'll be reliable in that sense from that point of view. So overall, in terms of Christian Nørgaard, will he be a good addition as a squad depth player, as a guy just to fill up the bench and provide a different option? Why not? I mean, if we're winning, say 2-3-0, and we need to rest some players, and we need to just see out the game, then this is the sort of player that you need to bring onto the field and essentially just sort things out. I think he'll be that sort of player. I think in terms of set pieces, like I said, in terms of the goals that he was able to score for Brentford this season, he scored a lot of them via set pieces, and we all know how much Arsenal love their set pieces. So that is my thoughts on Christian Nørgaard. I think for £10 million, I think it's all right. He's okay. I'm not gonna say this guy's gonna set the world alight, but we need to have depth, and this is one of the players that can come in and provide the depth. Now, if we were to talk about the entire transfer window, and if we were to say, yeah, this is the only sort of players that Arsenal are going to get, then obviously I'm going to be very upset and very annoyed. But I'm being a little bit patient. I'm waiting to see who Arsenal get offensively, especially in terms of their strikers and their wingers, because that is the main focus. That is where Arsenal really need to splash the cash. If there are opportunities to get depth options and not spend as much, especially with the case of Christian Nørgaard, then that, in my opinion, is the right way to go. Because you're not going to be able to spend 50 to 100 million on 10 players. Sometimes you need to cut corners some places, and for a guy that's going to be on the bench and just provide a depth option, and someone who is Premier League proven, and somebody who can play in the midfield position and just really cover players, this doesn't seem like a bad option. Side note, I know a lot of people have been talking about Lucien Agume, and he is a younger option. He is seen as that Partey replacement, and possibly he could be a better player than Christian Nørgaard in the future, but you never know. I think this is a long transfer window. If Nørgaard's going for 10 million, if Agume is going for 20 million, 30 million, you basically got midfielders that can sort out your bench for the foreseeable future. And you have a player that's experienced and a player that is young and that can develop. But what do I know about Arsenal's finances and who the hell they are going to get? But yeah, that is the end of my video. I understand a lot of people are upset. And don't get me wrong, I'm still waiting to see who Arsenal get offensively, because that is the main thing. The strikers, the wingers, the attacking players, that is the main thing that Arsenal really, really need to splash their money on. The 50 to 100 millions to 150 millions, wherever it is, that's where Arsenal need to spend their money. But yeah, that's the end of this video. I hope to see you all soon in the next video. Please like and subscribe, and see you all soon. Bye bye.